As a responsible person with growing concerns for your privacy and personal liberty, you want to know where we're headed and what you can do about it. We ask the experts what you need to do to take prudent and responsible action to safeguard your family's wealth and well-being, and what basic first steps will help you to be aware and prepared. ReluctantPreppers.com.
Welcome back, Reluctant Preppers. We're fortunate tonight to have returning guest David Morgan, widely recognized guru on the silver and precious metals market, with us here on Reluctant Preppers. David Morgan, thanks for joining us here again on Reluctant Preppers.
Dunnigan, it's great to be here. Thank you.
The last time we had you on, we were diving headfirst into what are the characteristics that make up the moral fiber of someone who wants self-reliance and prepared for challenging and chaotic times. Since then, it seems that perhaps the long grind of a slide in the silver markets may have bottomed, and we're seeing a definite different action the first quarter of this year than we had seen for the past several years. Wondering if you could give us your expert opinion on what's going on in the silver market and how that can inform people who are concerned about the risks present in the global economy and down to how it affects their lives, on whether this is a sign of the winds are changing here, and what should they be prepared for?
I absolutely will, but I want to preface it with the gold market because they tie together, or at least how I analyze markets. Gold has had like the best start in the beginning of the year in like 35 years, according to Economist magazine. On top of that, there's been the biggest flow of funds into the gold sector in the last 2 months since June of 2009. So lots of volume in the gold market. However, what has me concerned is that the silver market really has not verified the move up in gold. I look at the gold and silver markets like Dow theory. If the industrials are doing well but not confirmed by the transportations, you better take a stronger look at what's going on. And since silver needs to be, by my work, about $16 at the current time to verify this move in gold, and it will sustain, and it hasn't done so, it gives me pause. Having said that, gold could all of a sudden accelerate and verify the gold move, but I don't think that's the case. So short-term basis, I think you're going to still see strength in both metals. You could probably see silver somewhat accelerate, but not to a level that I think it needs to be at in order to confirm the move. So I would think there will be some kind of ebb and flow to the markets. Always they go up and down. I know that, and we all do. But that there is going to be probably one more test. I do not think there is going to be a new low in the gold market or the silver market, although there are those that are pretty well known in the community that do. And I won't argue with them. They could be right. I base mine on facts as much as possible. And the fact that not only has the price move been the best in 35 years, but the volumes are very, very significant. So if it was a great big price move on very small volume, that's easy to take down and go into new lows. But when it's on big volume and there's a lot of players in there at those price levels and they're moving higher, it's very difficult to move it down into a new low. So I think that the lows of November, December 2015 are the lows for these precious metals, and we will work higher. But I'm suspicious that we could go much longer in the gold market because of what silver's action is right now. And I want to add to that a little bit more, and that is that the gold-silver price ratio is over 80, and that's when the bull market in silver began, was 2003 September. It broke out of that 555 long-term channel that was there for almost 20 years, with the exception of the Buffett buy that popped it up to like 850 and then back down. And once that took place, there was a sustainable rally for quite some time, as we both know.
What do you see going on in the global economy that you can correlate to your understanding of what's happening in both the volume and the pricing in the precious metals markets?
Well, it's kind of hard to tie those two together, but basically what we see is a further deterioration in the global economic system, which means I'm talking about the physical economy. I'm not talking about the financial markets, although the financial markets are starting to reflect the real physical economy, which means that you've seen, these huge sell-offs in the Chinese stock market, the U.S. stock market, the Bolivian stock market, across the board. But the real thing that is important is what is the physical economy doing? And of course, everyone refers to the BDI, the Baltic Dry Index, and what's going on in the shipping world. And all that's true. So we really see a contraction globally. There's just people that have money that don't want to spend it, that are sitting on it. Others don't have any. The housing market that's had a quote unquote recovery is primarily from hedge funds that have a fair amount of cash that are putting it into real estate on a cash basis for distressed properties, and even buying them at quote unquote distressed levels. They're really not moving up, or they have in some areas, but it's a very much of a bottom picker's game, and they may think that they have picked the bottom, although the real estate market, depending on where you look, I mean, Vancouver is still very overpriced. There's areas that are still very overpriced in my studied view. But the real question is, so how does that relate to volume, et cetera, in the metals? And the answer is this. The most negatively correlated asset class to equities in general is gold, not gold stocks. And since you've seen this big move from the beginning of the year, the best start in 35, and simultaneously see one of the worst starts in the general equity market in the United States in a very, very long time, that's exactly what you'd expect with a negatively correlated market, which means that gold is doing its job as you would expect it to do, and big money is moving into gold again quietly as they can without disrupting the market too much. So it's been a sentiment shift. There's been a sentiment shift of, the stock market or equities are a place to be, back into the gold market, and not necessarily the resource or commodity sector. It's more of a gold phenomena. And as I said earlier, even more so than silver right now, which is unusual from the aspect that silver and gold are 85% correlated. They move together 85% of the time. But in this case, silver is lagging, which means whatever it means. I mean, to me, it means that something is somewhat amiss. But silver has a dual personality. I mean, it acts like an industrial metal some of the time and a monetary metal other times. Right now, it's acting more like an industrial metal, sympathizing with the overall equity market, saying, well, there's not going to be a lot of demand for silver because there's a global contraction. But if you read today's news, and I'm doing this interview in early March, the Silver Institute just put out their update on silver, and they basically said that there will be an increase in the amount of industrial demand for silver in 2016. They said there'll be about a 5% decrease in the amount of silver total supply basis, the mining industry and the recycling industry, and there will be a wider deficit in 2016. And their final comment on the price was it would be higher, but they didn't really give a price point. So all those I agree with. So silver still looks, very good and very undervalued at this point in time, but nonetheless, it's kind of sitting there statically at this, 80-to-1 ratio with gold. So to me, it's opportunity, but I've always cautioned everyone that silver is a game or an investment that you really have to have the ability to manage the stress involved with the volatile moves, because it's not for everyone.
Well, and as people are who are considering on our channel, looking at silver or gold as a place to capture some of their assets, some of their net worth in a place where it could have more long life expectancy than either currencies or equity markets or even real estate, less likely to be in a bubble situation if times fall apart. If you could just sort of recap what your main values are that you place on why precious metals have become the focus of so much of your career. What is it about precious metals that keeps bringing you back to spending so much of your life energy in understanding what's going on with them?
Well, it's monetary history is what drove the impetus to stay with the metals and continue, because when you have a breakdown crisis, it's a crisis of confidence. It's the cognitive map. It's the way people think, and it's the way they believe. And even people that are atheists have huge, huge faith in the U.S. dollar. So to say they have no faith, they're lying to themselves, because they trust and believe and have faith in the dollar. But there are always times during history that proves to be a misplaced faith, because all fiat currencies up until now have always failed. So having that as a 100% failure rate, knowing that we're in a system that is most likely to fail again, you have to look at what is the subset that takes place and has a confidence level of nearly 100%. And that's, a pure gold or pure silver. It doesn't have to be pure, but the idea being it is what it says it is, and it has no outside relationship to anyone other than yourself or someone you transact with. So gold, silver in and of themselves are not a financial liability. They stand outside of the system, and they're not electronic formed. So because there could be a situation where there is a default in payments or trust or confidence or transactions or electronic transfer or you name it, that could take place, and in some instances have already taken place in in our short, near terms, meaning 2008 onward, then there's a gravitation to something that people have confidence in and trust in, and you might say an absolute trust. So that's the metals. But if you really look at my work and you read the Silver Manifesto, the last chapter 12, is beyond silver. And I question a lot of things about the human experience and, why money is so important and should it be? Where is its rightful place? But I don't really need to go down that rabbit trail with you. The real reason is what I outlined. It's the real thing. As I used to say at the end of all my interviews, be real. That means to your own self, be true. Buy real stuff, and get real and buy real. So, be real, be true to yourself, get real. Get real with what's happening here. You don't have to be a doom and gloomer, but you need to be a realist, because these are times that require people to look for things objectively as they are and not how they want them to be. And lastly, buy real. And what that means, of course, is buy real metal or buy real goods or buy real services or buy something that really has value. Most Americans are trained to consume. Is that some way to identify yourself? We're consumers? It's really preposterous when you think it through, yet, a lot of people never even think about it. It's like, oh, I can hardly wait to go shopping, and this is grinding down. This is something that takes place at the end of all great inflations. There starts to be this reality check that you might not be able to afford things you used to, and perhaps more importantly, they become unavailable.
I just wanted to follow up with you on one more question, because our first interview with you, we were asking you at the Liberty Mastermind Symposium to talk to us about your top priority preparedness list, and everybody associates you with precious metals, but surprisingly, your first number one recommendation was not precious metals. It was about food, recognizing that you would need to have a significant supply of healthy, long life, non-perishable food for your family. And I just heard that you've been introduced to a new line of healthy, non-GMO food, and I wonder if you can give us a clue about that, so our viewers might be interested to look into it.
Sure. I was actually speaking at an event similar to Liberty Mastermind, and the guy that sponsored the event is one of the distributors for Humana Foods. And he acquainted me with it, and the more I did some research on it and ate it, tried it, cooked it, the more I thought, this stuff is pretty darn good. So they asked me if I would endorse it, and I do not like to do endorsements, but I do, endorse certain precious metals dealers because I know them and have dealt with them and that type of thing. And it's a very similar case here. So I have a website. It's silverprepper.com. If you do buy it from the silverprepper.com website, I will get a slight amount from you. You're not going to be charged anymore, than you would if you were getting it from the Humana Foods website. So if you choose to do it through the Silver Prepper website, I appreciate it. If you choose to do it direct, that's fine. It's your call. I would definitely recommend, a starter package, something that's small, and you can try it for yourself. They do have gluten-free, which I favor, options. They also have, no high fructose corn syrup. A lot of the survival food or emergency food or long-term storage food, that type of thing, have a lot of sugar in it. Not all of them, And, we'll be more conscious about the GMO thing and all that. This is non-GMO, non-high fructose corn syrup.
And non-soy, I happened to notice, and it reminded me that our off-grid survival doctor, MD, Jay Nielsen, MD, specifically said, he said the Romans had their lead cup, and our lead cup is GMO and soy. So it caught my attention when I noticed that the New Manna food was soy-free as well. So
yeah, well, thanks for bringing that up. I mean, I don't think I'm going to get rich selling it. I'm doing it as a service, and I am endorsing it because, people trust me. And if they say, well, which one do you use? It's the one I use. It's the truth. So it's there for you. Start small, because you might find something better. And there'll be competition, which I'm all for. I mean, there are others out there, I'm sure, that, are coming into that line of non-GMO, et cetera. But thanks for bringing that up, Dunnigan, because yeah, if you're going to store it, you may as well get the best you can. Is it cheap? No, none of this stuff is. Its price point is very much in line with all the others that are out there. So this type of stuff, you pay a bit of, premium for it because, one, it has a shelf life of 20, 25 years. It's pre-packaged. They're all individual packs, that kind of thing. I mean, there's costs involved with it because of how it's packaged, and the storage ability of it. But if you're going to do it, why not get food that's healthy for you?
Always looking for reliable tips. And David, we just appreciate you cluing us in on. You've talked to us about food. You've talked to us about precious metals. You've talked to us about beliefs and attitudes and character. We always appreciate you spending time with us here on Reluctant Preppers. And unfortunately, we are out of time for tonight, but we'd like to have you back again soon. And just once again, thank you for joining us here.
My pleasure. Thank you.